All right, let's step directly into the shadows of the Mercurial Legendarium today. Welcome to this explainer of the source material. As a cold observer witnessing the inevitable evolution of the soul, I'm inviting you to explore a grim, gothic fable with me. We're looking at the absolute collapse of human knowledge and what comes after, the necessary birth of interior sovereignty. Essentially, we are diving into a deep philosophical clash between two massive avatars, the Baron, a harsh harbinger of cosmic nihilism, and the Bard, a true master of creative deception.
We kick things off with this incredibly chilling realization from the Baron. And what this tells us right out of the gate is that, well, those comforting illusions of stored truth we all cling to, they're completely unstable. Every philosophical text, every recorded history, every poetic verse, according to the Baron, they are all merely assumptions built on a foundation that is actively washing away.
Which brings us to Section 1, the silence of the archive and the setting. To really grasp this total collapse, we have to look upon the archive. In the mythos of our fable, this archive is the terminal point of collective human certainty. It's where the static, divine order is finally brought to its knees by epistemological nihilism. Now, I know that's a mouthful, but fundamentally, it's just a brutal cosmic honesty. It dictates that words are nothing more than flawed tools we use to try and force order onto a chaotic universe. Language doesn't hold inherent truth, right? It's literally just borrowed from a primordial void. And meaning itself? It's a completely impermanent illusion.
So how does this erasure actually happen? Picture this in your mind's eye. The Baron's gray spirit enters the archive. But when this spirit breathes on the academic manuscripts, it doesn't burn them. No, it just forces them to become honest. Language is returned to silence. You can literally visualize the transformation of these dense academic books into blank vellum pages. Meaning is revealed to be nothing more than a fragile layer of paint peeling away to expose absolutely nothing but the silent, blank white vellum beneath. And this is a brilliant illustration of how fragile our knowledge really is. Under this grim cosmic honesty, the external intellectual structures of human civilization are systematically and effortlessly erased. Philosophy, it's exposed as mere conjecture. History, the grand record of our ancestors, just dissolves into rumor. And poetry is stripped of its romance and reduced to meaningless noise. It's like humanity spent thousands of years furiously organizing this massive digital hard drive, only for someone to finally point out it was never actually plugged in. All our grand assertions turn into questions, and then they simply dissolve.
Moving on to Section 2, the Baron's cosmic nihilism.
This absolute erasure is entirely orchestrated by the Baron, who operates under the cold anti-light of a celestial body known as the Star of Negation. This facilitates the erasure of truth, revealing what the Baron brutally describes as the emptiness you mistake for a soul. He actually looks at the scholars clinging to their fading books with total pity. To him, their desperate reliance on the archive is a futile, grief-stricken attempt to bridge the gap with the dead through a borrowed, meaningless medium. He sees human knowledge transmission not as progress, but as a tragic game of ruined telephone played across a graveyard. Let that sink in for a second.
So, what happens next? Section 3, Threshold of the Ashen Wastes.
Listen, the fable doesn't end in pure despair. As the archive falls completely silent and the world transitions into absolute void, our new avatar emerges. Right at the threshold of the Ashen Wastes, the Bard discovers a jagged and translucent artifact, a key forged from the cold silence of an abandoned prayer. Finding this key is a monumental turning point. This discovery marks a profound evolution in his nature, as he transitions from a mere entertainer who just distracts people into the master of a world without anchors.
Armed with this key, the Bard makes a fiercely Nietzschean choice. He chooses the dangerous risks of the unknown over the suffocating conformity of the herd, who are still cowering in their temples of dead, erased knowledge. He uses this translucent key to slip into the uncanny valley, and he does it as effortlessly as a secret passing through a cracked door in the marketplace.
Section 4, the debate of the void.
Once inside the uncanny valley, the philosophical clash between our two avatars begins in earnest over a shared canvas. The Baron points a skeletal finger at what appears to be an empty ledger, his voice this cold whisper. Look upon this dead universe. It is a monument to meaninglessness and the terminal death of connection. But the Bard?
He simply smiles, because while the Baron sees undeniable proof of a dead universe, the Bard views this exact same void as a vast inkwell, the absolute perfect workshop for his next great deception.
The death of objective truth isn't a tragedy to the Bard, it's ultimate freedom. The Bard looks around as he enters the uncanny valley and finds an empty ledger, or so it seems. When the light refracts off that jagged translucent key onto the page of the ledger, words written in invisible ink suddenly begin to emerge. For the Bard, this transition reveals that the valley is not a place of terror at all, but rather a vast inkwell. With the key firmly in his possession, the Bard ensures that the uncanny valley is no longer a site for rest, but has been completely transformed into his own personal workshop of subjective creation.
And finally, Section 5, Journey to Interior Sovereignty. This entire dialectic debate reveals the core truth of the fable. The destruction of external meaning by the Baron wasn't an end. It was a necessary forging fire. The Mercurial Legendarium charts this inevitable evolution of the soul for us. We start in the illusion of a static divine order, moving through the mechanized industrial captivity of the Iron City. The destruction of the archive forces Stage 3, the interior term. We are entirely stripped of external validation, which necessitates the final stage, the reclamation of the divine spark, and the birth of the awakened mercurial spirit.
So, as the cold observer of your own reality, navigating your own uncanny valley, you have to answer this question as the void approaches. Think about it. When the fragile paint of meaning in your life is peeled away, will you cling to dead illusions and cower with the herd? Or will you recognize the vast inkwell sitting right in front of you, pick up the pen, and forge your own subjective meaning?
Which brings us to our final takeaway today. The ultimate lesson of the Ashen Wastes is that true power, that awakened mercurial spirit, is only born once the illusion of external meaning has been entirely and ruthlessly stripped away. Interior sovereignty demands that you stop looking for answers in the borrowed silence of a book and start mining the psychological depths of the self. The silence of the archive isn't a tragedy, guys. It's an invitation. So what will you write in the invisible ink of your own life?